Okay, my YouTube people, this is the reassembly of my 1946 Harley Davidson Knucklehead transmission. First thing I'm going to do is reinstall the mounting studs in these 4 holes. As you can see, these 3 had thread inserts put into them, and this one's still original in aluminum. So the one thing you want to do with your studs is clean them off with some brake clean. I use CRC brand. You just want to get oil off your threads so that you can put the red Loctite on and know it'll work. In the early 4-speed transmissions, it was 3/8 coarse and 3/8 fine. And the 3/8 coarse goes down in the case. The way I put these in is I put 2 3/8 fine thread nuts on them. Then I put a good amount of red Loctite on them, like that. Then I take and turn them in. And you turn them in just till the thread bottoms out. You don't want to force these in. You'll just damage the aluminum if you're going into aluminum. I just snug them up, and that's it right there. Now I'll do the other 3. Okay, now I have all 4 of them in, and that installation went about as nice as one's going to go. You can see they're all the same height. They all have the same amount of studs showing where there's no thread. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tape off the bearing surfaces in here, and then I'm going to spray paint a good coating of this Gliptol red insulating enamel onto the aluminum. The reason you use Gliptol is oil doesn't bother this type of paint. And the other thing is, the reason you do it into the case is because these old cases were really porous. Sometimes they can seep oil right through the porous pores of the aluminum. This one did not have that issue, and it wasn't painted before, but I'm going to do it as a precaution because I use this on all the transmissions that I rebuild. When I spray it, I make sure to get a real good coating on the threads and the stud in all 4 positions. And then after that, I'll put some liquid Teflon on those same points. Now I have the Gliptol paint painted in the case. I'm going to put liquid Teflon over top of each one of my studs. I'll also take some brake clean and clean off this gasket surface and clean off where this bearing goes in here because it's got a little of that paint on it. The one thing I just noticed is this race is a little bit loose. So I'm going to show you how to take care of this. The first thing I'm going to do is remove this snap ring. As you can see, I just used 2 screwdrivers down in there to lift one side of it out, and now just kind of work it around. That was pretty simple to get out. And now I'm guessing this should come right out. So to get it out, I'm going to use a brass drift and just give it a couple taps. And that's all it took. Now I have it out. I made sure when I was hitting it with the brass drift to hit it up on this edge here. You don't want to hit it here because this is the outer race for the bearing surface. It doesn't look like it was spinning down in there, which is really good. Now I'm just going to clean it up with brake clean. You see I got a little of that Gliptol paint on the edge of this, and just getting that off while I'm at it. So the real important part of this is these 2 things. You have Loctite primer, and that's part number 22477, and also the green Loctite, and this is for press fits to help keep press fits in. First I'm going to prime both surfaces. So the directions are this: you clean the parts, you spray where the Loctite's going to go with the primer, and then you let it dry for 3 to 5 minutes. Assemble the parts within 3 minutes after you've applied the Loctite. Okay, I'm going to let that dry. Now I'm going to spray the case. Okay, now I'm going to let it dry for 4 or 5 minutes. I'm not sure if I recorded that or not, so I'm going to walk you through the steps I took in case I didn't. I put the green Loctite on both surfaces, and then I tap the race back in. It's a Jim's race. After that, I spiraled on the snap ring, and then I took brake clean and cleaned all these surfaces because you don't want that primer on this outer bearing surface. So I cleaned all that with the brake clean. Now I'm going to take brake clean and clean this paint off where that bearing goes in. Now that I got this surface nice and clean, the bearing should go in and out real easy. Next thing I'm going to do is put some liquid Teflon over top where the studs are, just to seal them up a little more. Start with this one here. Now this one down in the corner. Now I just like to take my finger with a glove and make sure I paste that on there real good. Then I just take a rag and wipe off some of the excess. And there's what it looks like. It's not real pretty, but it doesn't really matter. Even if the oil takes that off, it's just Teflon. It's not going to hurt anything. Now I'll let the Loctite and the Teflon dry overnight.